Hello, everybody. This is not your regularly scheduled episode of Taipology. Those come out every Monday. This is just a rant. And I'm ranting in the middle of the night because President Lai just invited AIPAC to come to Taipei for dinner. And he gave a big speech about how Israel is a bastion of democracy just like Taiwan, and that Taiwan should copy the Israel model in defending itself. I'm going to quote right from his speech to AIPAC on Monday. The Taiwanese people often look to the example of the Jewish people when facing challenges to our international standing and threats to our sovereignty from China. The people of Taiwan have never become discouraged. Appeasement has never been the way to stop authoritarian governments, and the concept of peace through strength is a maxim that Israeli, Taiwanese, and US society have had for years. Israel's determination and capacity to defend its territory provides a valuable model for Taiwan. I have always believed that Taiwan needs to channel the spirit of David against Goliath in standing up to authoritarian coercion. Excuse me while I go barf. David versus Goliath? As if the world hasn't been watching Israel flatten Gaza in real time, blowing up humanitarian workers, crippling children, obliterating whole families, sniping people going to the bathroom from their church. Journalists are getting picked off in record numbers. The entire population is denied proper access to food and medical care. The whole thing is one big indecency. The whole thing is one big outrage. And although a lot of people will say the word is not helpful, it is obvious to me that it is a genocide that is happening right in front of our eyes, and that the ultimate goal of Israel, even though they talk about hunting Hamas or whatever, is basically just to get the people of Gaza and eventually the people probably of the West Bank out. Where they go, it doesn't matter. They just want them out or dead. Who cares? To me, that is ethnic cleansing. That is genocide, and it's absolutely horrible. And I cannot imagine. I feel personally ashamed that my leader, the president a lot of Taiwanese people voted for, are cozying up to them and saying that he's doing so because of these highfalutin principles like democracy and rule of law and sovereignty. I mean, it's even gone too much for Europe. There's the condemnation for Israel now, I believe, is worldwide. And even if some leaders in Europe are still standing in their corner, more and more they're finding that an untenable position because their people can see with their own eyeballs what's going on the ground. And they just see it as a massacre, as a total, degenerate, horrible killing of people as if they're animal, as if they're sheep. It would be touchingly naive, actually, if it weren't so morally repugnant. Taiwan looks up to Israel in general and AIPAC in particular because it fancies that if only it could run the same playbook as AIPAC, it too can one day make it as a top tier ally for the United States. Instead of being the expendable pawn that we are. And everybody on the island knows exactly how Taiwan is being treated as as a sucker to be asset stripped now for the United States. Even the most green to the bone, pro independence, American flag waving, Donald Trump worshiping Taiwanese know deep down that we are we are the, basically we're on the menu, you know. If China offers a good deal for us, you know, Trump will be more than happy, more than glad to bargain our bargain us away. And who knows what will happen? That's coming up very soon. We'll be talking more about that, I'm sure. I find it pathetic that so many Taiwanese were jubilant when America dropped those courtesy bunker busters on Iran. Do you remember that a few months back? They were really thinking, yeah, America still got it. Yeah, America's still that bitch. Yeah, if we get America on our side, then China can't touch us. But that's not the reality anymore. And even if it were the reality, Taiwan is not Israel and will never reach the level of Israel in terms of how close, how core we are to America. It's simply not possible. Just look at their actions, right? Don't look at their words, look at their actions. Look how America is pumping money into Israel. The Israeli will not be able to fight on without them. We'll probably stop existing as a country without constant support from the American taxpayers. And they get the pick of the litter of America's aging arsenal of whatever it is, missile defense, bombs, whatever it is. They get the pick of the litter. They get it gratis from the American taxpayers for the most part. Meanwhile, we pay through the nose, we pay above the odds, we pay for bottom of the barrel, and the stuff isn't even here. Like, we're getting hectored, we're getting hella pressure to increase our defense spending to 5% of GDP, but we're not even getting any stuff, and we can only buy from America because yeah, under international law, under the UN, Taiwan is not a country. Taiwan is in fact a part of China. So if you want to talk about rule of law, that's something to think about. The very idea of Taiwan stooping to lobbying a lobby like AIPAC, it just smacks of desperation. It almost makes you wonder what's left that's progressive about the Democratic Progressive Party, right? Because it's not just AIPAC. They're reaching out to all these MAGA chuds, you know, because they realize, oh, yeah, just getting on our knees and offering up TSMC as to our American overlords is not getting the results we want. If we want to be protected, we actually have to chudify ourselves to be even more sycophantic. And that way, surely, Daddy, America will protect us. I don't think, I think the stupidity of that is just so absolutely insane because yeah, sure, AIPAC will be delighted to take the kudos. After all, AIPAC is very, very pilloried right now. And they're not a force on the rise. They are actually losing power. And I'm not talking about their reputation around the world. I'm talking about right in America. Americans are waking up and realizing that it is really weird that the very top levels of their government can be this much influenced by a foreign lobbying entity. So, especially the next generation of Americans, the young Americans, are waking up both morally and just kind of cognitively. Like, no, this isn't right. This isn't, something's wrong here. If we have this many congressmen and lawmakers who are in such close contact and under such influence by anybody, any other country. I mean, I'm not picking on Israel. I think it should be problematic for any country to have another country to have that level of influence over their policy, right? Especially when it is a policy that's gotten very bloody, that's gotten very murderous, and that's gotten a lot of people in the world to actually start to question about America's narrative, the one that it's really built itself up on of being the good guys, right? It's hard to square what we see, the videos that we see, and the very fact that journalists aren't allowed inside of Gaza to actually show us the full extent of what's going on. It's hard to square that with the image of Americans as the good guys. And a lot of Taiwanese people really flatten the morality of this situation by talking about October 7th. Oh, who can condone October 7th? So many horrible things happened on October 7th. It was terrorism. You can't be on the side of terrorism. Being a terrorist means that you are beyond the pale, and therefore, whatever the Israelis did after that is completely justified. And I'd just like to ask them, how can you say that and also at the same time accuse the Chinese of genociding the Uyghurs? Because first of all, if you want to compare Xinjiang and the Palestinian territories, whether the West Bank or Gaza right now, there's no comparison. Kashgar is thriving. And I understand there was a huge crackdown on the Uyghur population, and it maybe you can say it wasn't as discriminating or it wasn't as scrupulous as it should have been. But guess what? It came in the wake of some really gnarly terrorist attacks. And if you want to use that logic of everything that comes after a terrorist attack is fair game, then why the double standard in calling what happened in Xinjiang a genocide and wanting to buddy up to the Israelis, who is actually doing much worse things right now? I'm talking about present tense, ing. Yes, there was that peace deal that Donald Trump said he got done, but as I understand it, the bombings have continued. There's no end to the suffering of the Gazans. It's meanwhile, we are welcoming their representatives to Taiwan, and we're saying we want to copy you, we want to be like you, we think you're so cool. It's sickening, the hypocrisy, the double standard, and it just totally reveals all this talk about democracy and rule of law as window dressing for cozying up to power. Is there rule of law for anybody if you're in Gaza? If you are a child in Gaza, where are your human rights? What is your sovereignty if you're a Palestinian, right? And the funny thing is, we spent decades telling the world Taiwan deserves sovereignty, even though we're no longer in the United Nations, and so technically we do not have it under international law. Because we created de facto sovereignty, we have a functional government, a thriving economy, a healthy civil society, healthy-ish. Well, let me tell you, if China had acted this whole time like the Israelis acted against the Palestinians, we wouldn't have any of those things. And we would be living in hell. And no, I do not condone terrorism. No, I do not support Hamas. But I'm saying after living in hell and in oppression for generations, you are going to create a lot of hatred. And that is just what happens. And you cannot blame a whole population for the fact that some of them got very angry and decided that the only way out is through acting out of hate and destroying themselves, as well as, I mean, it's just a double standard, right? You know, American think tanks even encourage Taiwanese people to take up arms in the case of a Chinese occupation, right? And they're telling us to maybe hide in the mountains and form an insurgency and make every crossroad at midnight a nightmare for any Chinese PLA soldier. They will call it freedom fighting, they will call it insurgency, but it would in fact be terrorism. So, wait a minute. It sounds like you're a freedom fighter if you're aligned with Washington, but you're a terrorist if you are not. And we see a very clear case of that recently, didn't we? With Syria, Syria's new president, toast of the town, you know, darling of European leaders. Um, what's his name? Al Shabaab, you know, used to be like, had a 10 million bounty on his head because he was a part of Al Qaeda. But now he's our guy, he's our Qaeda. So now all of a sudden he's all right. And if his Takfiri fighter guys goes out there and some Alawites get massacred and women get kidnapped and raped and forced into marriages they don't want, that's just some collateral damage. You know, you have to look at the big picture here. The whole thing is, as I say, sickening. I find it really hard to square the fact that the Taiwanese are really kind, soft-hearted people, with the fact that so many of them feel zero empathy for the Palestinians. When they see the dead kids, their eyes are dry. They just said, blame Hamas, blame Hamas. The Israelis are the good guys, actually. I'm just like, how is that possible, right? We're all humans. We're all human beings. We all have skin. We all have bones, and we all feel pain. And when we see somebody getting blown up in video, we can't help but feel a pang in sympathy, because we can't help but imagine ourselves in their place. Like, what would it be like for us and our loved ones if we were in that situation? But somehow that doesn't seem to happen with most of the pro-independence Taiwanese who are pro-Israel and think Israel can do no wrong, can never go too far. What I don't understand what it is about that narrative that hardens their hearts. Here's a gem of a tweet by former Foreign Minister Joseph Wu. Thrilled to welcome the first ever AIPAC delegation. What a wonderful crowd. Glad to deepen Taiwan-US-Israel ties based on our shared values of freedom and rule of law. Hope you had a good time here, and we look forward to more visits ahead. And here's the tweet now from President Lai. As we deepen strategic partnerships, invest in advanced tech, and enhance our defense capabilities, we look forward to closer Taiwan-US-Israel cooperation on security, trade, and beyond, promoting peace across the Taiwan Strait. And who knows, maybe we can help them promote peace in Gaza too. Can't wait to get our hands dirty. Yeah. I've already explained why I think standing with Israel at this point in time is disgusting. but it's worse than that, actually. It is stupid. Do you really think that because you threw a party for AIPAC that America and Israel is going to stand behind Taiwan's dreams of independence and um, back us to the hilt against the PLA? I mean, you got to be dreaming, right? Um, it's totally different. It doesn't matter if we play the exact same playbook. It doesn't matter how much we suck up to them. Taiwan and Israel is just never going to be the same, right? Um, Even we copy the APAC playbook bar for bar, and and there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not my place to go into it, but basically, I think Israel and AIPAC was able to create a very effective narrative very early on that taps into the American psyche with this crazy end time narrative, right? Somehow Israel has to exist for the apocalypse to happen in a correct way. I'm not even too sure about it. I mean, how is Taiwan supposed to get in on that? I mean, I I don't want to give people any ideas. I mean, I'm that's just gonna be way too weird. But we can't get in on it, and we'll always be very, very peripheral compared to Israel. So it's like, how foolish even to try. Um, Anyhow, I think looking back to China and what China is offering Taiwan and what more and more people in Taiwan are willing to listen to is peaceful reunification with terms that can be negotiated. Because unlike the Israelis, that never, from day one, they never looked at a Palestinian and saw a potential citizen of Israel. They saw a Palestinian and they saw that's one more problem we have to get rid of one way or another. And they weren't too scrupulous about which way. Um, the Chinese always saw the Taiwanese, and by the way, vice versa, before the whole Taiwanese, not Chinese thing became popular. Uh, we saw each other as Chinese, and we were just Chinese under different uh, different political ideologies, different governments, different centers of power, and that made the possibility of reconciliation a lot more possible. Um, and now we're at this interesting point where ideologically, Taiwan has really tried to run really, really far away from the Chinese identity that makes reconciliation and reunification seem possible. But it's doing that just at a time when the balance of power across the Taiwan Straits is more massive than ever in China's favor. And even in that dream scenario where America and Israel decide to join the side of Taiwan and be all team democracy, I'm not sure that they can win. In fact, I'm pretty sure they won't be able to. And whatever is the result, Taiwan will be smashed to bits, just like Ukraine is smashed to bits. Um, I just don't understand why anybody who loves Taiwan would even want the possibility of that. So please, President Lai, do not call for the Israel model to be applied across the Taiwan Straits. You won't like it if that happens. Um, and yeah, I don't think the Chinese want that either. I think most of us want to build a relationship and figure things out in a way that is more like healing than destroying. It's like the opposite of the Israel Gaza situation, because um, what Israel is trying to do is basically, in their minds, trying to expel a foreign entity that doesn't belong to it and needs to go away. Ironically, those were the original inhabitants of those lands, but let's not get into that. What Taiwan and China, what we're trying to do together is different. We're trying to heal a wound of history. Uh, Chinese people on the mainland and Chinese people in Taiwan. Somehow, we have been separated for 80 years and more. And we have to figure out what are we going to do? Is it going to be 80 more years of separation? Is it going to be some kind of coming together, and under what framework? Anyhow, it's late at night. I'm going to bed, as you can probably tell. And I do plan to keep my usual episodes of Typology nice and regular on a weekly schedule. It should drop every Monday. That's what the algorithm likes. And the next episode, I'm hoping to talk about two great leaders, one on each side of the Taiwan Straits. Jiang Jingguo in Taiwan, leading the Republic of China, and Deng Xiaoping, who was leading the People's Republic of China during a time of great growth and turbulence. And those two leaders are both so very different, but in a way they did similar things. So stay tuned for that. This is just an extra. This is just a rant from Auntie Angelica, because I was really sick and tired and I wasn't going to take it anymore. So bye.